Dylan O'Brien tackled those maze challenges. Let's dive into his adventure as Thomas in the Maze Runner movies, based on James Dashner's books. After the first Maze Runner movie in 2014, they made another one called Maze Runner: The Scorch Trials in 2015. Then, in 2018, they released the third movie, Maze Runner: The Death Cure. But are they making a fourth one too? In case you missed it, the Maze Runner movies are about this guy Thomas, played by Dylan, who wakes up in a maze with no memory. He meets other guys like Albie, Newt, Minho, and Gally. It's just boys until Teresa shows up. Together, they try to escape the maze. They find out they're part of an experiment in a world that's all messed up. Did you hear about Dylan O'Brien's accident on set of The Maze Runner? It actually delayed the third movie for a while. He got hit by a car during a stunt scene and broke a lot of bones in his face. He talked about it on a podcast, saying it was a tough time for him to recover. Let's talk about movies based on books. You know how Harry Potter had those two-part finales? Well, The Maze Runner didn't do that, but it still faced some challenges. Even though each movie adapted one book, the ratings and money it made went down with each film. Overall, it did pretty well, making almost $1 billion on a small budget. But don't get your hopes up for a fourth movie. It doesn't seem like the creators want to make one. If you want to know more, keep watching to find out. Disney is working on Maze Runner 4. They're thinking about new stories like ones before or after the original trilogy. But there's a question mark about whether the old cast will be back, because time has passed and they've gotten older. So there's some cool news about the Maze Runner movies. They're making a fourth one. Yay! The movies are based on books for teens, and they're all about this guy named Thomas and his friend Teresa, trying to beat the bad guys and find a cure for a nasty virus. There's been talk about making a fourth Maze Runner movie for a while now. The first three movies did really well at the box office, making almost $1 billion worldwide. Plus, there are more books by James Dashner, giving the movie folks lots of material to work with. Since the last movie in 2018, fans have been wondering what's next for the franchise. Disney took over the Maze Runner series after buying 20th Century Studios in 2019. Even though the last movie didn't do as well as the others, Disney still thinks it's a valuable story to tell. We don't know much about it yet, like which characters will be in it or what it'll be about, but it's definitely happening. So, back in April 2019, Disney said they were planning more Maze Runner movies during a big event. They talked about continuing other movie series too, like Kingsman, Avatar, Planet of the Apes, and Alien. Disney's been keeping their word on those, with new movies or sequels being announced or released. But Maze Runner 4 hasn't moved forward yet. There hasn't been any news about it since they first said they were working on it. No director or writer has been named for the project officially. It's been a while since they said they were making it, so some people wonder if it's still happening. But Disney hasn't said it's cancelled either. So we are kind of in the dark about it for now. So for Maze Runner 4, there are a couple of cool options for the story. James Dashner wrote some extra books related to the original ones, like prequels and sequels. Disney can choose from these for the next movie. There are 2 prequel books and 2 sequel spin-off books they could pick from. One prequel goes back to when the flare virus was first started, while the other continues the story way past where Thomas's adventure ends. If they go with the prequel idea, they might adapt The Kill Order, which talks about how the flare virus started. It's set 13 years before the first Maze Runner book and follows Mark and Trina, 2 teens trying to survive after the virus hits. So Maze Runner 4 could be all about the beginning of the virus and tie into the original characters. Alright, if they go with the sequel idea for Maze Runner 4, they might be looking at adapting The Maze Cutter. This book came out in 2022 and jumps a whopping 73 years ahead after the events of The Death Cure. It's all about the descendants of the original Gladers, facing new challenges when a ship shows up on their island. The main characters are Sedina, Isaac, and Jackie, with Sedina being related to Newt. So, if they pick this story for Maze Runner 4, it could be like a fresh start for the series, leaving room for more movies down the line. In The Kill Order, there are small roles for Thomas and Teresa, but they're really young, like just 5 years old. So, getting Dylan O'Brien or Kaya Scodelario back for those parts would be tough. But they could always tweak the story a bit and add in characters that fans know, like Ava Page from WCKD. That could shake things up a bit. So, when we'll get to see Maze Runner 4 is still up in the air. Disney hasn't given it a release date yet, even though they've got their movie schedule planned out until 2027. So the earliest we might see it could be around 2028. That gives Disney some time to get everything together, like putting a team together and going through all the steps to make the movie. And it would be kinda cool because it would mark 10 years since Maze Runner: The Death Cure finished up the original trilogy. But really, it's hard to say for sure when the movie will come out. If Disney gets moving fast, it could be in theaters in just a couple of years. The Kill Order is a book in the Maze Runner series by James Dashner. It's about what happened before everything in the other books. There were big solar flares that hit the Earth and made people sick. The story follows Mark and Trina, who survived the solar flares. But then a new disease starts spreading, making people crazy. Mark and Trina want to find a way to stop it before it ruins everything. Fever Code is another book before the events in the Maze Runner series. It talks about how the maze was made and ends where the first book starts. The main characters are Thomas and Teresa. Making a movie out of it might be tricky because the actors who played Thomas and Teresa in the other movies might be too old now. Even though Fever Code gives a lot of background about Thomas and Teresa and what they went through, fans might not like it if new actors play them. The Maze Runner series has cool moments in a messed up world, but it might be too late for more movies based on the other books. When making a movie based on a book, the best clues for what happens next usually come from the book itself. The 3 movies in the Maze Runner trilogy are based on books with the same titles: The Maze Runner, The Scorch Trials, and The Death Cure. Since those stories are wrapped up, the only options for a new movie could be the 2 prequel books, The Kill Order and The Fever Code. Movie studios are looking at their long list of films and realizing they need to make even more money. So what do? They decide to reboot a whole franchise that they kind of left behind. That's exactly what's happening now with 20th Century Fox officially rebooting the Maze Runner series. In case you're not familiar, Maze Runner started as a book series. The main story is about a group of teenagers who discover they're trapped in a huge prison called the Glades. They have no memory of how they got there because their memories were wiped out. Outside the walls of this prison, there's a huge maze filled with deadly creatures. One of the new guys in the Glades finds out about it and decides to find a way out with everyone else. Dylan O'Brien was like the backbone of the Maze Runner series. If anyone had good things to say about it, they'd mention him. So why are they rebooting it when the last movie came out just 6 years ago? Well, obviously they want more money, but they say it's not exactly a reboot or a sequel. Instead, they want to continue the story, but bring back what made the original movie great. It's kind of like what they did with some Planet of the Apes movies or Daredevil: Born Again. Do share your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button before you go. We'll meet you in the next one.